Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining. My name is Jackson Alatesh, and today we're going to be taking a look at XCOM 2. This game is made by Firaxis Studios, the same individuals who are responsible for the Civilization series of games, as well as the modern XCOM remakes that started out in 2012 and have continued, as you can see here, up to a full-on XCOM 2. So to get started, we'll take a look at the options menu. The options are pretty standard for PC, which is a nice thing to see in light of some other recent titles not quite having a full menu. Obviously, you can break out your different volumes and such. In this case, you will notice that I have disabled the ambient narrative that's going on. That way, when we get into the game, we don't end up with any of the NPCs giving away any spoilers, anything of that nature. Over in video, it's fairly standard. Graphics is also fairly standard. Lets you select most of what you'd like. As you can see, I'm running it with whatever it came with pretty much out of the box with this whole little auto-detect thing down here clicked. Next up, you have gameplay. You can turn off the action cam if it annoys you. There have been some reports that the action cam causes a delay between turns in combat, which can be annoying. In my case, I like it on. I've not seen much in the way of issues switching between turns. I think at one point across 18 hours of play so far, I think it took 4 or 5 seconds to figure it out. And then you have the interface menu, which allows you to take a look at and remap your keyboard bindings, which is a very, very fresh change after some of the more recent PC titles to come out. Alright, moving along the bottom, got fairly standard, except this character pool thing. So the character pool allows you to take characters which are available elsewhere and import them. So, for example, these are the 2 pool files which come with the game. You can import characters directly from the demos and replays, or you can import developers into your games. You can have the developers running around shooting at and getting shot at. Looking back here, as you can see, I have a couple of them imported. This is one of the gals from the demos that were out there, and it goes into a fairly standard, just kind of look at the character. The only change that I've made here is I've changed the class over from just a general recruit or rookie over to a Psy soldier, just because the purple things are cool. Anyhow, there's a lot of customization that goes into the characters, and this is also available when you're in the game. It's not exclusive to the front end menu. However, one cool thing that's available out here is it allows you to set whether or not this particular NPC can appear as a soldier, a VIP, or a dark VIP. VIPs, you go on missions and you try to extract them. Dark VIPs, you go on missions and try to not let them get extracted. So there's 2 sides to it. Alright, and we'll skip over the new game menu for now, and we'll just go ahead and join a game in progress. One thing I enjoy about the game is I enjoy the loading screens. They're all fairly varied throughout the game. As you can see here, we're sitting inside of a ship. And the ship is landed in some picturesque location. And very much like the XCOM series that kicked off in 2012, your base is broken up into certain chunks. We'll kind of work from left to right here and save the big glowing bridge for last. So on the left side you have your research section. It's fairly standard. It allows you to take a look at items that you have researched, read through them. It also lets you view the number of scientists that you have staffed and where these scientists are available at. So it's important to note that the more scientists that you add, the faster you can research. It becomes very handy when researching some difficult topics. Additionally, the research bay also provides some of our power. As you can see up here at the top, we have a certain power budget to work with. Moving over to the right, we have the Commander's Quarters. Commander's Quarters contains the XCOM archives, which is a whole bunch of stuff that you can just sit around and read if you're one of those individuals who's very interested in the universe. The next one down is going to be the Avenger Report. The Avenger Report shows you a brief rundown of what all is going on within your ship, conveniently named the Avenger. From here you can take a look at your power budget, you can take a look at when in game time each one of these facilities was built, as well as details such as staff and how much it costs you to run every supply drop cycle. You can also take a look at your larger objectives, which are the campaign objectives that you're currently up against. Moving down, we have the living quarters, which lets you get an idea of all the personnel that you have employed with you. All of your soldiers, engineers, and scientists appear on their own respective tabs. Pretty straightforward, but it's a nice place to find them, as well as see if somebody is assigned. Down in this section of boxes, in this 3x4 space. These boxes are areas that you are permitted to build things in. So when you initially start the game, all of these are filled up with junk, be it exposed power coils, machinery, etc. And then you excavate them using engineers. Typically I found it's easiest to excavate down the middle and then move off to the wings. Requires less resources. One other thing that you get when you extract these or excavate these is you get supplies as well as alloys from each one of these items. In this case you get Elerium crystals from this class of cell. So they're worth digging out if for no other reason than just because you have an engineer sitting around doing nothing. Now as you go deeper in the ship, it will also require more engineers to excavate. In this case, I have workshop gremlins, which we'll get to in a second, but I have no actual engineers that are available, which is unfortunate. So we'll go ahead and jump back out. Most of these add-ins or modules that you build are going to be staffed. In this case, there's a small blue person icons, which show that this is staffed by scientists. And you can also upgrade these. Now the trick with upgrading them is that they do end up taking more power. In this case, the science lab, and our two scientists hard at work figuring out alien things. To increase the power that's spread around the ship, you have a power relay. Power relays, once again, are staffed. You can see we have an engineer here who is hard at work making sure that there's 10 more power available to the Avenger. Now those gremlins that popped up in a menu a couple seconds ago, those all come here from the workshop. So it allows you to take one engineer and effectively turn that one engineer into 2 manpower for any adjacent cells. As usual, it can be upgraded. However, it's going to cost you not only supplies, but also power. Moving over further to the right, we have the armory. The armory is where you can take a look at your soldiers. You can recruit soldiers. So these are all of the soldiers which are available, and in the first game that I played here in XCOM 2, I ended up recruiting every soldier which was available. There were none of them available. All of my folks were injured. It was just generally no good. You can take a look at your soldiers and the exact layout of them, as in, for example, we have Rift here, who's a specialist, with a status of available. This gentleman down here is a ranger. He is shaken, but he's available. Let's go ahead and dig around in here. What shaken means is that something bad has happened to this guy in the past, rendering him with a willpower score of 0. Willpower is a fairly important stat, as it determines how hard it is to control the mind of the mind of your soldier, should you be an alien. Also determines their hardiness in combat. So for example, if I take Cougar here out, and I'm on a mission and somebody else gets blown up, chances are he will just simply panic. He has no willpower, he's shaken up, he's all out of sorts. You can also take a look at the other stats that impact your individual as well. And this will vary from class to class, and in my experience somewhat randomly as you go on and throughout. The one thing that you will notice about this gentleman is he more or less looks like a Skittle with a really big gun, which is kind of cool. There's a lot of customization that can go into the weapons, go into the armor, go into the coloration. So you can just simply get in there by customizing it, and you can change pretty much whatever you would like to with him. So let's see, let's go for an even lighter shade of pink, get him more of that Skittle-esque vibe going on. One other thing you can note about your soldiers in here is you can take a look at the exact abilities that the soldiers have. As they get promoted, you get the option at the end of a mission in which they were promoted to give them a particular ability. And this is where you can take a look and see what they have. You can mouse over them, and it should give you a mouse over. Of course, the mouse over sometimes gets stuck, fairly typical things. You can also click in here and you can take a look at what you didn't select when you were promoting the soldier. So in this case, I chose suppression, the ability to put out suppressive fire, pins down a target, grants reaction fire against it if it moves, and it imposes a -50 penalty to the target's aim. Fairly handy when somebody gets uncovered. What I gave up for that is demolition, which is basically the ability to mow things down, mow things out of cover. The cover is very, very important in this game. Also worth noting is that the weapons are not necessarily just static weapons. They are upgradable. One of the early research goals allows your weapons to be modular, meaning that you can add pieces onto them. These pieces are found throughout the world. When you drop an alien, they may put up a box around them that says, hey, if you run somebody in here within the next several turns, you will receive loot. That loot can be cores, it can be alloys, it could be supplies, it can be weapon upgrades. It's worth getting the upgrades and hanging on to them. The one thing to note, though, is that if I were to replace this hair trigger with this expanded magazine, the hair trigger would be forever destroyed. It would not be usable again. As you go up and as your tech level increases, it's also possible to get weapons that have more slots on them, and I'm sure that the modding community will also end up adding to that as well. Now we'll go ahead and head back out here. Alright, below the armory you have the bar/memorial. Just another almost a flavor piece in my opinion, but it's necessary, and it's also something that features rather well. In this case, you can take a look at all the agents that you have gotten killed through your poor tactical planning or poor situational awareness. In this case, the fact that I'm a couple of hours into the campaign here and I've only lost one person is absolutely astounding. I am awful at these types of games, even though I greatly enjoy them. Looking down here at the bottom right, we have the engineering section. The engineering section allows you to take a look at your engineers, what they're doing, view your inventory, as in what all you've collected off the battlefield. It also allows you to build your facilities. This is where the facility building is done from. You can also build items which are specific. Now, one trick with these items is that when you build the items, they suddenly become available for everybody on your team. So for example, let's say that I get myself some more supplies and I build this mag cannon. What that means is that every grenadier class soldier will be able to equip a mag cannon. Unlike prior installments of XCOM where you actually had to make the weapons one by one, in this one it doesn't quite work that way. All you do is you build it once and everybody can use it. Same thing applies with armor as well. Alright, and now we'll move on up here to the bridge. This is where you'll end up spending quite a bit of time and really where the whole meta-game, which is XCOM, comes together. As you can see, we've got a fairly large series of countries here, representation of the globe. In this case we started out in Africa. It all seems to be fairly random as to where exactly you start. You'll notice that there are several areas which are tagged. We have a resistance headquarters, which says build faster. What this means is that if I decide to fly to the resistance headquarters, and then I decide to continue scanning, which is basically, I don't know, short for time acceleration in the XCOM universe, it allows me to build areas significantly faster. In this case, the Proving Ground will be built in only 5 days. Scilab will be built in 11 days. Or excuse me, scratch that on the Proving Ground. Proving Ground is what they're working on something. The Scilab will be built in 7 days. As opposed to when I was down here at the Black Market, I believe that was sitting at 11 days. The one thing that I have noticed through a couple of plays through the game, or a couple of plays into the game, not through yet. Now let's see here. Black Market. Let's go ahead and escape. Anyhow, one thing that I've noticed as you go along is that the game likes to overload you with options. So if you sit here and you're at your Black Market, or let's say you're sitting out in the middle of West Africa for no apparent reason, having just completed a mission, and you start scanning, what will invariably happen is you'll end up with all kinds of stuff that manages to pop up, such as these little green icons here, which are guerrilla sites, which allow me to counteract dark events. But wait, what is a dark event? So as you go through the game, you have this avatar project timer sitting here at the top. When this guy fills up, you lose. It's just that simple. Below it is a button for dark events. Now these dark events are events that occur that work against you in a larger way. For example, Advent invests in improving their battle gear, adding armor to some of their soldiers in the field for a full month. Now what's interesting about these is that you don't necessarily have to be subject to all of them. You can handle these guerrilla missions, which will counteract a particular dark event. So in the case of this one, it gets rid of the rapid response dark event. This guy over here gets rid of the extra armor we were just taking a look at. By clicking confirm, I can jump to the mission, but we're not going to do that quite yet. Other items of note, as you've got these cool little red doodads here. And these guys are alien facilities. When you pop one of these facilities, you complete the mission with that facility. It removes one box from the Avatar project. So it's important to keep up with those as you go along. Now looking at the different countries here, we have West Africa, East Africa, South Africa, and as you can see, they're all highlighted in just like a neutral color. Over here though, we have New Chile, and New Chile is highlighted in red. The reason being is because we have not made contact with New Chile. Now, this whole contacts thing is offset, as you can see up here, where contacts 3 of 3. We also have a warning sitting down here that says the resistance communications are at capacity. So if we click on that, it takes us right back over to build facilities, where we could conceivably build resistance comms if we had the supplies, but at the moment I'm broke, so there will be no resistance comms starting out today. So next up, we got this bar here at the upper right. I probably should have gone over it a little earlier in this, but anyhow, we have our contacts, we have our number of scientists, our number of engineers, we have our number of alloys that are available to us, Illyrium, intelligence, which intelligence is used to quote-unquote contact other countries. Basically, it's a currency that's used to limit the wanton wholesale spreading of you throughout the planet. Gives you just another resource to go after. Our current supply level and our current income level. Now, the one thing to note with the income level is that the income level will not necessarily match the total amount of money that you're making. So, for example, if I jump over here, I can see that I'm making 132 from East Africa and 140 from West Africa, or vice versa. That comes up to a whole lot more than 187. And the way that you find out how that difference actually comes out is you go up here, you take a look at the Avenger report. I'm paying 75 supplies for my laboratory, 20 supplies for the power relay, and 25 for the proving ground, then 35 more for the workshop. So there was some consternation on Reddit a couple of days ago with the math not working out, and honestly I would have liked to see a more traditional balance sheet, but not really going to worry about it too much. Alright, finally on the screen you have the event queue. So this shows you what's coming up in the days going forward. And then obviously a clock, because everybody loves a clock. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at a mission. Let's jump back to the main menu here. And we will just simply start a new game. Now in this I'm going to set it to rookie, just for the sake of simplicity and the fact that I'm awful at these games. Leave the tutorial off, reduce the beginner voiceover, or excuse me, direction. We'll turn that on. And why don't we show subtitles? Alright, so we're going to jump in here, and let's just go ahead. So this Iron Man option. Basically, Iron Man only gives you one save game. That save game is overwritten perpetually when you make a turn on combat, when you make a change from inside the Avenger. Basically, there's no going back with it. If you start without Iron Man, you'll be able to stack up your saves so that, if you make a dumb move and one of your agents goes running out from behind something and gets their face blown off, you can just simply load up a game. We'll just enable Iron Man here. We go through an interesting cutscene here, which I'll let you discover by yourself.
It's time the aliens and the rest of the Advent administration learn that.
And now we're in the dropship heading out to the mission.
We're moving into the city center to strike a high-profile target. Deploy and approach the designated position. Neutralize any hostile contacts and secure the site.
One thing that I have noticed with this game is the loading times are extremely variable. For some missions, it loads right away. For others, it can seem to take a while. And it doesn't seem to vary much with the exact map type. Perhaps it'll be patched in the future. Alright, out of the ship, on the ground.
Menace 1-5. We have a fix on the target. Move to place the X4 charges at the designated position.
Alright, so there's some charges up there. Alright, so in most missions that you go on, your squad will start concealed. What this means is that the enemies don't know you're there. Basically, it means that you can just kind of run around and you can feel the whole situation out before actually getting yourself into combat with them. What this allows you to do is set up some ambushes. One downside of ambushes is that many of these missions that you go on will have a timer, a turn timer. You run out of your turn timer and the mission ends. You fail. If your guys are left behind, then, well, you lose those too. I learned that with the hard way, which is kind of rough. Objectives in the upper left, we're supposed to take out the enemies and plant the X4 charges. Alright, so as you can see here, there's a blue border. What this blue border means, or what this blue border shows us, is how far the individual can run with one of their action points. Now, if you take a look beside the soldier himself, you notice there's this little guy. This is the number of action points that they have available to them. So, if I run up here, if I decide to have this gentleman run up here, he'll go up, and he has one more action point remaining. This yellow line sitting here denotes that the action points will be entirely used, and therefore that will be the person's last move of that turn. And why this is important is because with that move, he can shoot, he can chuck a grenade, or he can go into Overwatch. Basically what Overwatch does is, provided that their squad is revealed, what Overwatch does is anytime an enemy alien decides to move from their square, you get a free shot at them. Granted, it comes with an aim penalty, but that's just the way of things. It's a free shot. It's good stuff. So we're going to go ahead and put him in Overwatch, and then move on to our next individual. We'll run him up just a little bit further. Notice that in this case, the line showing the path that he will take, as well as the border around it, is yellow, indicating that this will be his first and last action this turn.
These guys make up the bulk of the advent forces we've dealt with.
And now we have
They're
spotted and revealed the aliens.
But their obedience makes
But because
them
we're concealed, they don't know that we're here. So the idea now is to get in a position and stay off these squares. All these little squares with the eye with the exclamation point in it means that your squad is revealed. This is also true if you crash through a window, kick a door off its hinges, or shoot somebody, as they generally tend to notice when folks get shot. Alright, we want to set up a good firing position, so we'll go ahead and scoot someone around to this side. One other item of note here is that we have these indicators that show cover type. That right there. So what cover type does for us, there's two types of cover. There's full cover, as you can see here with a full shield, and then partial cover. Partial cover confers a slight, I would say slight derogatory towards the aliens trying to actually shoot you, or the aliens successfully being able to shoot you. Whereas full cover is absolutely and utterly preferable. There is no circumstance in which full cover is a bad idea. The other thing that's important to note is that your cover can be flanked. In the event that your cover gets flanked, your individual is probably going to end up getting taken out. And the same for the enemy. So if you can effectively outwit them to get them out of cover while you're in cover, you'll do quite a bit better with things. So with the lack of full cover here, we'll go ahead and let's see. Let's just charge.
Already there.
You can also hit tab to cycle between the individuals in your squad, which is it's quite handy. They also did that in the 2012 release of XCOM, and it just doesn't really seem to get all that old. Alright, go ahead and park him behind a lamppost. And move over here and get this one up.
Already there.
Alright, now it's the aliens' turn, and they didn't really do much. So if I press 1 on the keyboard, I can take a look at a target. In this case, an Advent Trooper. He has 3 health. It's blinking to let me know that if I decide to shoot at him, what'll happen is if I hit him, there's a fairly high chance that his health are going to be gone. The minimum damage this weapon does when it connects is 3, the maximum is 5. I have a 67% chance of not having to worry about him. However, we also have this little red eyeball down here saying, hey, that will reveal your squad. Not a good way to go, because when your squad is revealed and the aliens know that you're there, the first thing they're going to do is run for cover. So one of the best things that we can do in this situation is see if we can't get somebody close enough to get a grenade on top of him. Probably not him, but he does have line of sight on him, so we'll go ahead and we'll put him in Overwatch. This guy, he doesn't quite have a great line of sight on him, but we'll see if we can just scoot him up here. Partial cover is partial cover. And he can hit them with the grenade. Let's see. Probably won't be able to get both of them there. Doesn't look like it. It's pretty unfortunate. If you go 1 square further, I'm pretty sure he can get there from here. But I don't want to have him out of cover, because if your folks are out of cover, they might as well be dead. So we'll pull this gentleman up here to the very edge of their awareness range.
The Advent officers seem more capable.
All right, and he just revealed 3 more.
Whether to chalk it up to training or stricter mind control.
So he's kind of in a bad way should everybody decide to shoot at him at once. Yeah, grenade's explosion radius just isn't big enough to get rid of both of them. All right, so with him, we'll just go ahead and put him in Overwatch. And then we'll go off to... Is this a him or a her? Kara. Kara is probably a her. No point in being gender ambiguous. Excuse me, Sierra. Sierra O'Carroll. Alright, we'll go ahead and throw her on Overwatch. And then with him, we'll get this whole thing started up. So taking a look at it, this gentleman has view of both of them. Let's see here. There's more people with view of the left one, so that when he runs for cover, he gets mowed down. What we'll do is we'll see if we can just maybe get a little piece of him here. And got a big piece of him. One other thing that's important to note is that when things are on fire, they will blow up, cars will blow up, units can get lit on fire, and Overwatch, free reaction shot. Took care of him too. Alright, so that loot thing that I was talking about a little while earlier back when we were poking around the Avenger, that is what a loot box looks like. Got the red guy, he's a commander. And it looks like somebody got a free shot on him. And hit him with the free shot. Good stuff. And he has placed a mark on one of my units. I would assume that allows the others to get a little bit more of a free aim on him. I tell you what, these guys are just working out real nicely today. Alright, and that individual has earned a promotion. And that is the bummer with half cover, as well as having a mark on you. Okay, so this gentleman can see one alien. He has a 26% chance to hit him. Not going to do a whole lot with that. Let's go ahead and scoot him into full cover here. And then we'll go ahead and throw him into Overwatch for the next turn. She's a little banged up. She's marked as well. So let's go ahead and pull her back. And we'll park her back here.
On the move.
Alright. Put her in Overwatch. This gentleman, we're going to scoot him up a tad. He has line of sight, but only a 25% chance to hit. The enemy's in full cover. Not going to move on it.
Covering now.
Let's see here. She has 25% on that alien and 25% on the trooper. Let's go ahead and take it, see what happens. We could get lucky. And we didn't.
Shot failed to connect.
Yes, it did. Alright, so with all turns exhausted, he popped out around the corner and got taken out as a result of it.
Enemies down.
Alright, now he is on Overwatch, which means any movement within his field of view will trigger reaction fire against him. So anybody that can see him, view goes two ways, so if I can see him, he can see me. So let's see, who can he not see? He cannot see this individual. Now it's possible that this does end up triggering reaction fire. But we will see. If I can get him up here
On the move.
without getting shot. Oh, didn't work out. However, bad guy missed. Alright, we'll let him cool his jets for just a minute. So the trick with Overwatch is one turn, one shot, and one shot only. So now that Overwatch has been pulled off the alien, I can move the rest of my folks around more or less with impunity. So we'll try this 28%. And that 28% didn't work out.
Adjusting aim. I'm running low on ammo.
Alright, she's got 26. See if both of those come up with a good hit. Well, she got banged up and then got really angry.
Area is secure. We're not picking up any inbound contacts. Scanners are clear. Menace 1-5, we have a limited window to act before Advent responds. We need to get those charges planted on the double.
Alright, so with the bad guys out of here and everything clear, oh, look at this. We picked up an advanced laser sight, a PCS module that conveys 10 will, and an Advent data pad. So in this case, we can research this thing to try and break into their communications. So we'll pick all that stuff
Tech
up.
guys will love this.
And now, with no aliens
Roger
around,
that.
we can just kind of bonsai forward with these guys, go up there, plant our explosives, and be done with it.
Menace 1-5, you're near the target position.
Alright, so we
Moving
should
to
run this
position.
guy over. And then since it's on the correct square, we'll say plant.
Menace 1-5, rendezvous at the extraction point. Status confirmed.
Alright, now
Squad
it's
is
worth
clear.
noting that
Detonating
you can
charge.
put down an extraction point, you can pull your guys back from combat. In some missions, when things just go horribly wrong, you know, you catch a grenade square the teeth, 3 of your individuals get banged up. In some cases, it can be a smart idea to retreat from the combat. Here we have the mission complete screen. It shows us the number of enemies that we killed on the mission, how many folks were wounded, how many of our folks were killed, as well as the rating, which if, you know, nobody dies, it'll always be excellent. And now here we have the second part of the mission complete screen that shows our shot percentage, damage per attack, etc., as well as some, you know, greatest hits over here, who did the most damage, who was most under fire, and just simply who ran the furthest. And once again, the load times can be somewhat a little, I don't know, inconsistent coming back from missions.
Good work out there, Commander.
Alright, now with
We're
all
one
4 of
step
our folks
closer to
put
taking
back,
back
all
our
4 of them
planet.
earn themselves a promotion. So go through and promote them. It's important to note that when your rookies start out, they all start out with a basic gun, no specialized skills, nothing. But as they go up, that changes greatly.
The Ranger serves as our
So in his
primary
case, he's a ranger.
reconnaissance
Rangers
unit,
carry a
capable of moving
shotgun as well as a
independently in
sword.
concealment while
The nice thing
engaging
is they're one of
enemies
the
at close
only
range.
ways that you can actually run a full sprint out to the yellow line and still manage to attack an enemy. They are really, really nice when used correctly, and often they use them for going after high value stuff. So he's picked up the ability to slash, and he's still squatting. No call sign yet. It's important to note that with their first promotion, you don't get to pick a skill. And we
Just
have a
like it
sharpshooter.
sounds, our
Sharpshooters,
sharpshooters engage
pretty much
enemy
the snipers
targets
of the
with
game.
pinpoint
They stand back
accuracy
and
from
blow
extreme
big holes in
range.
small
They're
aliens.
also trained in pistol
It's a
marksmanship
rather great
for the
time.
occasional close encounter.
Now, the one thing to note is that with the sniper, with the sharpshooters here, when they fire their main rifle, it uses up both of their turn points. Also, they cannot move and fire their rifle on the same turn. Instead, they fire their handgun, which they're also pretty accurate with. Another cool thing to note is squad sight, which squad sight permits them to see aliens that they ordinarily would not be able to see. So for example, they can see an enemy that one of the other people can, even if they're too far away to be able to see them classically. One other nice thing is that a skill further down allows for Overwatch to trigger on squad sight, which is pretty handy.
Serving as our
Third class, there's the Grenadiers here. They have a grenade launcher so they can get grenades that extra mile to the target. They also have a nice little minigun. I mean, not quite as pink and hardy as the other guys, but it still works. And then finally, we have one of the support types, the specialist. Now these folks make a fantastic in the battlefield healer. If you're like me and you're horrible at this genre of game, I would strongly suggest bringing one of these guys along. He gets aid protocol right off the bat, which allows one of your individuals to have buff defenses. It's pretty handy if you have somebody that's banged up and you assume that they're going to be under fire. As you unlock these things, you can unlock the battle medic tree, which basically allows them to be a force multiplier for the rest of your squad. Alright, and here's all the stuff we got. We got a laser sight, the PCS module, data pad. We also got 4 trooper corpses and 1 officer corpse. So, and then he's just letting us know that he is extremely pleased that we got a data pad. Alright, and it wants me to go over here to the research section, as we have no research going on currently, but we're going to be a rebel and go over here to the armory. Alright, so now when we take a look at our soldiers, we can see that Yu Wan Zhao was wounded and will be out of commission for 6 days. Now, the wounding in this game takes two forms. The first form that it takes is just simply wounded, where they're banged up. They need some time to recover, in this case less than a week. The second one is grievously wounded. Now, the trick with grievously wounded characters is that they tend to lose willpower. If they're grievously wounded multiple times, they can end up with a willpower that is extremely low. The only way to build that back up is to send them out on missions in which they damage the enemy, but don't get damaged themselves. So it can be quite the trick trying to keep all of your soldiers, happy, healthy, alive, and good to go. And with that, let's head back to the main menu, and then we'll just go ahead and summarize this. So my play of the game so far, and my read on it, the good side is that this is pretty much perfected turn-based combat. What you've seen in this review is nothing like what you will actually get as you progress further and further into the game. There are multiple enemy types, there are multiple strategies used for counteracting those enemies, and it is a fantastic game from the strategy aspect. In my case, as I mentioned at least twice so far, I'm horrible at this genre of game. Then again, I'm also horrible at chess, but I enjoy playing it. So the other thing that I enjoy with this is the varied metagame. The metagame of having the command center, having the big map and having multiple things to do, as well as the ability to customize your base to suit your needs. Like, for example, if you're like, this psionic stuff is a bunch of hooey, I just want awesome guns and heavy armor and we will just crush our way through everything, you can absolutely do that. And you can absolutely get through the game without ever having to go after it. So it's kind of, you can cater the loadout of your individuals, the capabilities of your squads to your own particular play style. The next thing that I enjoy is I enjoy the immense satisfaction of going out on a difficult mission and actually winning. Now, for me, I have to take winning a little more casually. Generally, if you folks get banged up, it leads to a very long roster at some point, and so far, I've gotten wiped out and lost the game a couple of times. It happens. I mean, honestly, being a veteran of XCOM, I played the original XCOM, UFO Defense, and then Terror from the Deep, and then these newer ones. Seeing the title XCOM just makes me think of starting new games because, it will wipe you out. It will crush your hopes and dreams. But I think the thing that I enjoy about it is that it does it eloquently and with some degree of fairness. And I mean that by saying that it knows all the rules of all the different enemies that it may throw at me, but I don't know them as of yet. So, I find out, but it's like the speed limit. Ignorance of the law is no excuse for breaking the law or behaving with the law, what have you. Anyhow, I think you get the idea what I'm trying to push across here. The final thing that I enjoy about it is that there is mod support via the workshop within Steam, as well as the Nexus mod series of sites. And for those of us that suck at the game, I mentioned that there are some missions that are timed in the number of turns. There's already a cool little mod called Timer Tweaks out there, which bumps that timer up, which is a fantastic way to go for those of us who move and think a little bit slower we don't like our tactics at 60 miles an hour. Another mod that's pretty handy, which was available on launch day, allows you to use one of the buildable items in the Avenger to make yourself a leader, and that leader conveys certain benefits on your squad, which is also pretty nifty. There's also firearm packs, there's some modifications for aliens, and as things move along and the actual modding tools are released to the community, which they should be in the near future, there will be a plethora of things available to customize your game. And on the other side of the coin, looking at things that some folks may see as bad, this is a difficult game. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I would say for a majority of folks, this is a difficult game. My friends at work say a difficult game. Some kids on the internet say, hey, I beat it in 8.5 minutes. It was way too easy. I don't believe them. In some cases, yeah, if you're a master tactician, this game is probably going to be fairly simple on the lower difficulty levels and provide you some challenge on the higher difficulty levels. For somebody like me, though, easy, medium, one notch up from the bottom, I'm okay with that and is still difficult. Also along those lines, the metagame doesn't suffer fools at all. The metagame being the Avenger, the layout of the Avenger, your research priorities, and even down to your squad composition. Basically, if you screw up, the game is going to let you know that you screwed up, and usually it's not a pleasant experience. This is just part of the XCOM franchise for me. I mean, if it says XCOM, it's going to be difficult, and you need to know what you're doing. Now, I will point out that this is not quite as, I don't know, build order centric, if you will, as the original reboot of the XCOM games that came out back in 2012. So, Enemy Unknown and Enemy Within. This does allow you to move things around a little bit more without instantaneously failing the game or knowing, you know, for the first 4 missions into it that you're going to fail and there's no way around it. The final note is that the aliens have a really fantastic AI behind them. There's really no two ways about it. They will flank you, they will come up on you from odd angles. You know, if you have your guys too close together, they will not hesitate to blow a hole in your formation with a grenade. All in all, though, I would say that if you're on the fence with this game and you enjoy anything that's of the strategy genre, of the turn-based strategy genre, I would absolutely pick it up. I mean, it is well worth the while, and it's well worth diving into. So far, I found the storyline to be reasonably compelling, and I find the gameplay to just be fantastic. As always, my name is Jackson Halatesh, and thank you for joining me. I'll see you again soon.